Hello and welcome to the interview. My guest today is Executive Governor of a state in the southern part of the country. He was a former minister. I'm your host, Moriah Afolabi Brown. We meet my guest after the break. Welcome back. I have with me the Executive Governor of Ekiti State and the Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, CON. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good to be here.
Since you became Governor of Ekiti State, you practically rolled up your sleeves and started work immediately. How has it been governing that state?
Well, Mariah, don't forget, when I became governor, I wasn't a rookie governor.
Yeah.
I had been there before.
Right.
I'd learned from my errors. I understand the challenges of the office, and I knew really what to do. So it really shouldn't surprise that I hit the ground running.
Right.
And it's been interesting. It's been exhilarating. It's been challenging, but that's what I signed up for. I wrote an application. I wanted to be governor, so
Right.
I really shouldn't complain.
So do you love your job, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it's a duty.
You've been in the news lately for so many things. I'll get into those things a bit later, but first we have to know a bit more about yourself, how you grew up, how you got into politics. What led you to this point? Could you share with us and our viewers what led to this?
Well, my journey into politics really wasn't serendipitous.
Okay.
It wasn't accidental.
Right.
I was born in Ibadan, the capital of Wild West.
Right.
But I'm from Ekiti State. I grew up in Ibadan, then went off to school, got posted to school in Ado Ekiti.
Right.
I went to the famous Christ School, Ado Ekiti. And when I finished, came back to University of Lagos, and then went off to England for my PhD. But in the course of that, I grew up in a family where being sensitive to your environment happens very important. I also grew up in the church. I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. So the issues of social justice,
Right.
of concern about my environment were things that were important.
Did you get involved in politics
up.
on campus? Did you get involved?
Oh, I was. I was quite active in university politics. I was also active in the democracy movement. I was secretary of ANONSA, that's the United Nations Student Association. I was also secretary of the Youth United Solidarity in Southern Africa. I was the Hall Secretary, Eninjoko Hall Secretary, and then a member of the Senate when I was at the University of Lagos. I was very active on campus.
Wow. Now, they always say that you need a godfather to get into politics in Nigeria generally. Did you seek to get a godfather, or did somebody seek you out?
Well, you know, we use the term godfather derogatorily.
Okay.
But I was fortunate. I really stood on the shoulders of many giants.
Like?
Well, like Alawa Kabashiron, if you may want to know that, like Bekor and Somkuti,
Right.
like Professor Wole Soyinka, like Chief Tony Enahoro, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
Right.
Otunbani Adebayo. So many people provided me with mentoring as I grew up. So
Some people became activists because, I mean, recently, if you talk about someone like Showore, he was an activist just like you, but he almost, some people say he went left, where he wasn't so interested in getting into governance immediately. He was more of a real activist. In your own view, is activism lost today, or is it being done in the wrong way?
Well, you know, we're all products of our own generation.
Right.
And the issues of your generation would determine the nature of activism in your generation.
Right.
When I was growing up, there were the big ideological issues.
Right.
Marxism, communism,
Yeah.
capitalism, Hawoism, Zikism. Those were the issues that
Right.
dominated the political space when I was growing up. And there were issues that also drove real agendas. How do you improve a society? Is it via leaving people on the end justifies the means journey and a survival of the fittest agenda? Or do the people who are fortunate have a duty to pull up the vulnerable and the weak in society? Those were contestations of that era.
Right.
But those issues are still live now. But they manifest themselves in different ways. Showore was a much younger activist, but he also worked with us in the democracy movement.
You're the chairman of Nigeria Food Governors Forum, and Southwest, everybody's scared because of the issues we hear of the headsmen. As a chairman of Governors Forum, what have you done so far? I know there have been several meetings. We need to know what's being done.
You know, it's in the nature of security for you not to know the mishaps that have been avoided due to active intelligence. But when one incident occurs, it generates so much news that then resonates with a wider population. And legitimately, security and safety is our primary responsibility as governors. So I don't even want to go down the route of saying whatever you're hearing, whatever you're seeing is exaggerated.
But I want you to
Even
reassure.
if it is exaggerated,
I want you to reassure.
we have a duty to reassure you as citizens. And the first position we take is that our security agencies need to do more than they're doing. And we also have to support them more. Now we're thinking of setting up a countrywide security trust fund, which has worked so well in Lagos, to which the private sector and the public sector will contribute to. We're also talking about recruiting more people. I gave a report at the National Economic Council yesterday on that. I chaired the Security Committee of the National Economic Council. So this is an issue that is dear to my heart. We're planning, the security agencies, particularly the police, is planning to recruit a lot more people. From Empower graduates, from Youth Corps graduates, particularly within their own local government areas, so that we begin baby steps towards community policing.
Before we do that, sir, don't you feel that a lot of Nigerians distrust the police? So for me to go work for police, I need to know that there are real reforms, that I'm going to get my pension when I'm old. I'm going to get certain remuneration that actually that I deserve. We hear that lots of police, 10 months ago, President Buhari had said that they should increase the salaries of these police. Until now, police are saying that they've not seen it. So why would I be motivated to apply it for a force that I feel that has been totally abandoned?
Frankly, I know that a lot of people have applied. Probably the application is even oversubscribed.
All right.
But that does not take away the concerns you have raised. Those who work deserve to be paid. It should not be a favor done to them simply because the bureaucracy doesn't work as well as we want it to work.
Let's talk about this NFIU directive that funds should be given directly to the local governments, and the state governors are obviously fighting this with everything. I know recently you had a meeting again to discuss this. What did you agree with your colleagues concerning how do you plan to manage or to work with the local government counterparts to ensure that these funds are properly utilized?
First, Mariah, let me disabuse your mind. We did not meet to discuss NFIU in our last meeting. Governors meet monthly to review the state of the nation, to prepare for the National Economic Council meeting, to discuss issues that are germane on the agenda of governors. NFIU happens to be one such issue at this point in time. But let me also say that at that meeting you referred to, we discussed polio, the end of polio in Nigeria. We discussed the State of the State Investment Conference. We discussed the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. We discussed the forthcoming United Nations General Assembly conference. We discussed many things. We discussed our money, FLAC,
Okay.
which is standard. However, NFIU is a critical issue for us because it's a surreptitious way of smuggling unitarism into the Nigerian constitution. A federal government agency has no right to tamper with the constitutional order, which is simply this. Local governments are an appendage of states. Nigeria is a two-tier federalism.
Okay, we agree with you, sir. But you know that you and I agree that lots of local governments have not been empowered. A lot of state governments have actually refused to give them the funds to develop their various communities.
I don't believe it's true.
Okay.
I come from Ekiti State.
Okay.
And I've been governor before, and I'm governor now. I don't even know what local governments do with their money. All I do is act as conduit for them to collect. In any case, what money do they have? By the time they pay salaries, they have no money. What you discover from many states is that states are funding local governments over and above what actually passed through the states because they're often not able to meet their obligations. And that's not the way it should be. I have no problem. I don't think there's any problem, any governor that has a problem with scrutiny of their accounts.
Okay.
But a federal agency has no business interfering in the movement of funds from federal government to local government via states, because that is a constitutional position. Until that constitution changes, if NFIU wants to pass money direct to local government, they should go to the National Assembly and campaign for the change of constitution.
Okay, we're going to wrap up very soon, but I can't let you go on this issue without asking you about, you were headstrong concerning the Obas in Ekiti State.
Headstrong?
We heard that you practically insisted.
You heard wrong.
Okay, could you clarify what happened?
Headstrong over what?
As in picking the leader amongst the Obas.
It's my prerogative to pick the leader. Don't let them. It is the job of the governor to appoint the chairman of the Council of Traditional Rulers. They said there should have been a criteria
or something.
The criteria, as far as I know, and as far as the law that I have familiarized myself with is concerned, is very clear. Okay. We have 3 grades of Obas in my state. I don't know about any other state. We have what we call first class, second class, third class. We don't have first class plus. Okay. First class is first class. Right. And a chairman of the council can come from that first class. Okay. So if some, in their own wisdom, have come to a conclusion that they do not like the face of the person who is the first class, who is equally a first class Oba, either because he comes from a small community or because he became a first class later, for someone like me, I will find that difficult to accept, personally and officially. I am governor of Ekiti State, Morayo. Ekiti is one of the eaglet states in Nigeria. I mean, the time I became governor, chairman of the Governors Forum, I mean, Lagos and Kano should be complaining and saying, look, a state created in 1996 is now chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum. What of us? Right. We were foundation states. Yes. We're older. We have resources. We should be the one to produce the governor of the chairman of Governors Forum. It's very akin to that, because some have put up the argument that, look, we are traditional Alademeri Dilogun, as they call it. But it's a distorted history. That's just what I would like to say on that.
I think I'll let you off on the politics. We're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll find out the man behind this position. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I still have with me the governor of Ekiti State, His Excellency Dr. Kayode Fayemi. Thanks for staying with us. Now,
thank you for having me.
I have to find out about your wife because she's so eloquent, smart, intelligent. She's doing so many things across the world. And we wonder how the both of you meet and how did you encourage her to the point where she is in her career?
You mean how did she encourage me to be in
Oh, it was the other way around. Oh, fantastic. Tell us about her.
Oh, well, I met my wife in graduate school. We were both graduate students at the then University of Ife, Obafemi University. And we met at the library. We met in the library of the university, Ezekiel Oluwasami Library.
Right.
And of course, the rest is history.
How many kids do you have? How many children do you have?
One.
We don't hear so much about your children. How did that come about? How do you raise your child as a governor of a state?
Well, I think you should just raise your child normally, so that you don't make a distinction between your child as the child of a governor and your child as the child of an ordinary citizen of Nigeria. So my son really doesn't see himself as extraordinary in any way, and he's leading his own life.
Interesting. So people wonder, how we don't see you much at parties, only close-knit parties, almost as if you're constantly working. But do you go to parties? Do you enjoy going to parties?
Well, if I have a reason to be at any social gathering, yes, I do.
You always send representatives. We hardly see you. It's only very, very few parties we see you. So it's like you don't like going to parties, or you just rather...
The truth of the matter, I'm not exactly a social animal.
Right.
But I do attend from time to time.
What kind of music do you like?
Haha.
Do you listen to music at all?
I actually do. You'd be surprised.
Oh, really? You dance too?
I listen to all range of music, and I dance. Yeah.
For real?
Yes.
Wow, it's been nice to see you dance sometime.
Oh yes, I look forward to it.
And sports?
My wife dances very much, so she tries to get me to dance from time to time.
What of sports? Are you into any kind of sport? I see you look like you're fit.
Yes, I do. From time to time, badminton, golf.
Have you done anything to improve the tourism part of Ekiti State?
We did, actually. When we were in office, we did. But in the 4 years that we were out of office, it was abandoned, and the place had become dilapidated. But we're rebuilding it now. The lesson we drew from that is that it's best to just let the private sector handle this sort of initiatives.
So would you like Ekiti to be a destination for tourists?
Oh, clearly. We have a lot of tourist attractions.
Like what? Because I always think of only Ikogosi. That's
no, Ekiti is the state of hills. That's actually our name. So we have caves, very traditional caves. We have hills. We have historical monuments. We have a whole range of things in the state. We just need to encourage you to come back home. Since you're married to one of us, you should be spending more time in Ekiti.
You see, talking about married to a Ekiti man, you see, there are a lot of values that I see in my husband's family. And I feel that as an Ekiti man, what has life taught you? Because people always see an Ekiti man, expect you to be educated, to be smart. But in your experience, what has life taught you? What can you share with us that life has taught you so far?
Well, you know, Ekiti people are very serious about values, and education is one such value that we cherish a lot. And that's why a lot of us go to school. We may not end up staying back in Ekiti. Naturally, being educated sometimes takes you away from your own environment. But those values that we cherish are always with us. For us, knowledge is important, but you can be a knowledgeable criminal. Ekiti people will tell you that. So character is far more important, because talent is a gift. What you actually build is your character. What you grow up with is your notion of integrity, of sensitivity, of compassion to the underprivileged, community. Those are things that are important to us in Ekiti, because we don't see ourselves as an island. And don't forget, we're a federation. That is why every single Ekiti community you see, there is always that suffix, Ekiti.
Right.
Ikole Ekiti,
Right.
Ikere Ekiti,
Right.
Ikogosi Ekiti,
Right.
Insho Ekiti.
Okay.
We would always add it because for us, that is what defines us from the Ijeshas or the Akures or the Owas.
Okay. I've always been curious about your friends when you were first governor and the friends when you're not governor, because we heard things of betrayal, people who maybe stabbed you in the back after you left the first time and never thought you're going to come back. Did you experience that? And if you did, how did you manage it? Or did you just expel the friends that embattled you when you lost the elections?
In life, it has nothing to do with politics. In life, generally, there are betrayals. And we're just human. Human beings run into situations in which they're scared of their own future. And they thought the people who could protect that future may well be those who have taken over the reins of power. And in that process, you begin to withdraw yourself. I'm not justifying it,
Right.
but it does happen in life. There were people who contested against me in my quest to be governor the second time. At least 5 of them are in my cabinet now. So
Yes,
for me, it really doesn't matter.
Are you in touch with ex-governor Fayose?
Am I in touch with him?
Yes.
From time to time we speak.
What do you talk about?
Matters that are dear to Ekiti people.
Right. So that means you're friends with the enemy.
He's not my enemy.
Right.
He's never been my enemy. I've never seen him as an enemy.
It'd be nice to see both of you out, in public, don't you think?
In public, we have actually, I mean, he was at, I recall, he was at the events where Chief Afeba Balola was given the Awolowo Prize.
Right.
And I was there. And I made light of the scene and even joked about his popular stomach infrastructure there. I mean,
Right.
what you can take away from him, he was governor of Ekiti State.
And he connected with the people.
And that office is not tied to personal angst or difference. I have to respect him for having been in the office and served the people to the best of his ability.
But you heard the rumor, or maybe the gist that he was actually more of the man, a man of the people, that he connected with the people, but you were more of the technocrats, you had the heirs around you, people didn't have access to you. Have you been able to dispel that, or you're still having issues grappling with those and that in the lower kid of the society?
There are times when the when populism, let me put it that way, populism is very attractive.
Okay.
But ultimately, people come round to seeing that substance is more important than symbols. Because it's what makes a difference in their lives that would ultimately matter. Yes, I never, I was never a mouth organist on the street. So you won't find me with Booli or Agbado on the street. But I actually ate it more than Governor Fayose.
Right, okay.
And he knows it.
Okay.
But that's his style, and I think it works for him.
Right.
It clearly is not my style.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
It's a pleasure.
That's all we can take. We'll see you again next week. Have a fabulous time. Bye-bye.